basically what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent, and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. Both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. We, as a race, if we could understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake. But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game. And so at this point, any mistake would be all but impossible. But again, you really have to understand the game to know that the guy that's losing is lost. And I'm sure most people sitting watching a chess match between two advanced chess players know the game's over long after the two players know it's over. Because they can't see the board and see that there's only 7 moves left.
What's up, guys? Do you hear that? We've already won. We just have to realize it, all right? We just have to get everyone to realize it. So today I have a pretty good episode for you guys. It's been a few days, got a lot of content built up that I've been wanting to talk about. So today I'm going to go over the overall market, a lot of the cryptos, privacy coins, and later in the video get into gold, silver, commodities, and finally at the end give you an update on what Mr. Gil Bates has been up to. So let's go ahead and get started here. S&P 500 breaking out. Here we're looking at the daily chart. This thing's pushed up quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to get some consolidation. I think this thing's heading up towards, if you look closely, where we had this little candle double top here. So I think we're going to try and test this area. Again, I'll use technicals to try and get an advantage, but overall I think right now there are some decent deals in the market with blue chip dividend paying stocks. One strategy I think is one of the safer strategies is look up, if you study Joel Greenblatt, and he has a website called magicformulainvesting.com. I'll put the link in the description below. I'm not affiliated with that. I just read Joel's work, and I think it's good to research his work if you're going to be in these markets staying hedged. But again, I think there are some good deals, and I'm going to try and come out with a few stock picks. Let me know if you guys are interested. Obviously, I don't give investment advice, but essentially just showing you what I own in my portfolio. So let's check out the put to call ratio. Here we are 0.86, so not so many puts in the market here. Volatility is way down. And again, I kind of mentioned we had kind of a triple top up here, and I thought when I saw this candle formation that we may have topped here. That does appear to be the case. We'll probably stabilize somewhere unless somewhere down here, unless there are any major geopolitical events that occur. It seems like the market's kind of digested everything that's going on at the moment. 10-year yield going up, so generally this puts pressure on markets. We'll see where this heads. Here there's really no resistance at the moment, but the market also doesn't seem to care. It's been ignoring the yield curve inversions, and generally these things play out later down the road, but essentially you have to keep dancing until the music stops, and that's what I plan on doing. So as long as this market is going to continue upwards, I'm going to stay long the market, but also staying hedged personally. So that yield is going up, but again, that's 2.5, the inflation rate according to government statistics is over 7.5%, and according to the way it was calculated in the 70s and 80s, it's closer to 15%. It's up towards all-time highs. I wanted to mention China. I had mentioned way down here, and I didn't realize this was going to be the case, but I had mentioned this thing has fallen so far. It was up here near 100, 97, and had fallen down into the low to mid 40s. And I was saying this is just getting ridiculous. Since then had rallied like 30%, and again, that's why I feel the need to stay hedged when you're seeing moves in entire indexes from major countries like this going up 30% in basically one day here. But since then we have a consolidation, so I really do like to see this here. I was essentially suggesting if this thing rips and just gets away from us, it's not going to give a trading opportunity. But if this thing can consolidate, kind of form a base and then go higher, this could be a potentially a phenomenal trade here that could go on for many months, I think. And with the Belt and Road and with everything that's going on, the distraction of the West with this Russia situation, China, in my opinion, is the big winner here. And I think they're pretty smart with how they play their cards. So I think investment-wise, keep an eye on what's going on with China, because that's going to have an effect on the rest of the world. So Bitcoin has been doing very, very well. What I'm seeing here is a slow grind upwards into this resistance area, okay? So previous moves were just massive pumps straight into this area of resistance. Here we have a more controlled move, though. We tested this lower trend line, came up, consolidated, came back down a little, and just slowly grinding higher. This thing looks like it really may want to pop out above this level, but again, we will have to see. So the area that previous resistance was around just around 46,000. So we'll see if we can make it up there. But again, with the limited supply here, the issue with I have with Bitcoin is, yes, there's a limited supply, but there's an unlimited amount of blockchains that can be built. And I think there's better technology, but this thing is getting adopted in places I did not expect, and this thing could push much, much higher. And again, we have this controlled move. So I think this is a chart to watch here if you're in Bitcoin. If you see the shorts starting to rise again, and they tend to make pretty large moves. So if you see this thing starting to move, it's likely we're going to go and test this lower trend line. If this thing stays solid or breaks down further, then that's when you know we're going to break out above this resistance towards the upside. And again, that's similar to what happened actually back here, was you had this basically what looks like a Wyckoff accumulation pattern followed by the breakout. We'll see if we get a repeat. So my favorite part here, hopefully you guys were in these coins. Congratulations if you were, but looking at Monero, again, slow grind higher. You had this breakout above the longer term trend line, and this line has been going on for a while. And what's cool about, look at this TA, so you broke above the 50-day moving average and above the trend line, and you came back and you tested this area of convergence between the 50 moving average and the long-term trend line. Tested that and started to come back up. Now we're testing this 200 moving average, so we could get a little bit of resistance here, so we may see consolidation, but overall the momentum does seem to be shifting. And like I had been mentioning, you know, previously back here I had been mentioning, you know, be careful, and I'm trimming my positions back here, but at this point I had been saying, you know, I don't know if this is the bottom, but you know, the point of this is to actually use them in the real economy and transact. You know, we need more small businesses, direct to consumer businesses that will take these type of payments, and that is what's going to create the value. So, you know, averaging in, or at least beginning to use these, is a good, or at least something that I'm considering more and more at these levels. And you know, it looks like anyone in this has already been rewarded. And I think, again, all I can say is the momentum is shifting. Well, will this consolidate? You know, hard to say, but people who use this for the right reasons will be rewarded in the long run, that is for sure. Same with Pirate Chain. Look at where we landed with Pirate Chain. So this is pretty cool. Again, another example. TA isn't always perfect. It just tries to get the odds in your favor. But damn, look at this here. This breakout put us right above this previous, what was support here. So it was basically a level between, it was, you know, around $2 to $2.10, and we kept testing this, tried to make a run, kept testing, and then a massive consolidation here. I mean, just perfectly hitting this level. Finally had the breakdown, tested again, kept testing it, and finally broke down. And now we've popped above this level, so we're here above this level that was continuously being tested. So now it should act as support. We could get a little, you know, a lot of time markets will shake people out and come back and then kind of consolidate. So we'll see what happens. Check this out. I don't know if you're familiar with Ed Bugos. He's an analyst at the Dollar Vigilante. A good source of information. And there's a lot in my description below of, in addition to TDV, a bunch of other people who are great sources of information. Check those out. But yeah, one last dip in R, and then it's up and away. Will he be right? I wouldn't be surprised. He could definitely be right here. So Dero. Again, I had mentioned Dero's probably going to come up and test this neckline. That does appear to be the case. So I think we're in a very neutral position here. I honestly don't know which way this is going to go. You got these two little doji candles. I think it's kind of a battle at this point. So if we do see a bullish engulfing candle breaking up around maybe around $12.20, it's likely we're going to come up and test this previous resistance up here. This is a rather big area and a lot of resistance here, but I think, again, if we get a green candle, that's like the most likely scenario. If we start to break down too much here, though, I think this is really up to the overall market, and I would watch what's going on with the overall markets, and that's probably going to give you a pretty good idea of what's going to happen with Dero. So Haven, definitely missed this one. This thing had been consolidating for so long here, and congratulations to anyone who was in this. This thing has basically about tripled. Just one thing to note, we had this final flush, and that happens a lot again in markets before you get the reversal. Is they'll try to flush those last people out before moving to the upside. Now, where is Haven going to go from here? Well, this thing has been in a huge downtrend. We have this twist on the Ichimoku cloud, so you know that suggests longer term uptrends, and this thing has a lot less false kind of signals than things like MACD, RSI. So it's really hard to say. This thing's had a pretty big move, but overall, again, I think the best strategy is people who use these for the right reasons, who are in these projects because they believe in them. They'll be rewarded, basically. So Ghost is sitting here around a market cap of 5.5 million. Anywhere between around 5 and 6 million is where this thing has really been pretty stable. And you're getting around a 25% staking reward. So again, I like to see this stability. Actually, I really don't like when these things shoot up that much because they're harder to kind of trade. They're harder to use when they're kind of spiking all over the place. So this is one that seems reasonable to actually use here. And definitely people aren't paying attention, which that's something I like to see when it's kind of undervalued. So Icke Cash, I think this thing has huge upside potential, and I had actually gotten bullish on this in the last week or so. I think in my last video I was saying, you know, I've been saying get out of this thing, or at least, you know, obviously not investment advice, but, you know, hint, hint, be careful here. This thing is an exponential that's coming down pretty quick, but we had this consolidation, started to move towards the upside, and, you know, my last video I was saying, will this thing move up? It looks somewhat likely, and that did happen. That did appear to be the case. This thing's moved pretty far. Let's check out the 30-day. So yeah, we have kind of a consolidation and a breakdown. So short term, we may see a pullback. I would not be surprised here. It looks like that is the case. We broke towards the downside, tried to retest that area, started to break down again. But how long will this pullback last? I know there's a lot of people who like this project, so I think once we find a level and shake out the weak hands, we could definitely see more upside here. Equilibria, all right, I was waiting for this. I thought it would have been a while longer, though. Finally getting the breakout here. So this is one to watch. I think this one could have incredible upside. The market cap's only 14 million at the moment. And so I'm not saying necessarily when to get into this. Again, it's had a dramatic move, and we could see something like Icke Cash where it's starting to break down again in the shorter term. But again, this is a project to think about, to consider supporting, and if it fits your strategy, then this thing might pop one day. That is for sure. All right, so that is it with the cryptos. So if you're a crypto only person, feel free to either skip to the end if you're interested into what I'm looking into, what's going on with Bill Gates. Feel free to skip to the end, or catch me on the next one. But if you're interested in gold commodities, then I will continue here. So here's the chart for gold. Again, personally, I think this looks pretty decent here. And if you look at the long-term chart, this cup and handle, the price target's really around like 2,900. But regardless, this thing's being manipulated. This was pretty sketchy here right when it was breaking out. But the way I look at this is just to keep some net worth both liquid and out of the banking system. So I really don't care about the price here. This is more for liquidity and security in my personal, the way that I'm thinking about this. Same with silver. Silver's harder to store, obviously, but it has both a monetary demand and an industrial demand, and the industrial demand is rapidly increasing with the requirements for solar, for electric cars. A lot of these new technologies use a lot of silver in addition to things like rare earth metals, that type of thing, and I'll definitely be getting into that in future videos. Rare earths is something I'm very, very interested in. Platinum's breaking down a bit, showing some weakness here. Again, I kind of look at this as just a way to store wealth outside of the banking system in a liquid form. It's not, I think it's not really a way to get rich. It's more preservation and something to keep some allocation to, or at least to consider. WTI, kind of as expected, popping back up and consolidating here. You know, this is more of a neutral position, but long term, especially what's going on with the currency markets, with the petrodollar, with other competing currencies coming in, I think in dollar terms, this is going much higher in the future. But hopefully for the sake of the economy and individual consumers, this will stay at a reasonable level for the time being. Bonus meme coin for you guys. This is something I would not touch personally, but I'm a pretty conservative investor and I don't really go into these YOLO plays. I prefer to sleep at night, but I do see the value for certain individuals and people with high risk tolerances. ApeCoin, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I heard some people talking about it, and will this be the next Doge? I don't know, maybe, but just wanted to bring this to you guys. And if it fits your strategy, keep an eye on this one. This is an interesting one. And there are a few additional things I want to cover that are in the crypto space, and then I'm going to go into some of that with Gates and the agriculture. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen and then come right back here. All right, just a few more things in the crypto space here. So again, like I said, I'm pretty conservative. One thing that I'm personally getting into is the Anchor protocol, and that's just a savings protocol where you're getting about 20% interest. From what I've read, this will probably go down over time, but for now, this is staying above 19%. And I think the thing to watch are these deposits to determine the security here. So as long as these keep increasing, you're going to be safe. If this crashes for some reason, that could indicate some risk in this protocol. But this is something I'm personally getting into just as an income generator. There is another income generator, though, that is pretty insane. Again, this is a little bit above my personal risk tolerance, but I find it interesting, and that is Titano. This thing has been doing very, very well. The pattern looks like we could break out above previous highs, and this is supposedly getting 100,000% yield. Obviously that's not sustainable, but things like this don't have to be. You can make some quick cash and get out. I know one video I was watching, they made hundreds of thousands already on this. So again, that's a little too much for me, but it may fit other people's strategies. So when I find something like this, I always try to bring it to you guys. Okay, so now, what is going on with Gates? All right, just doing some research, and I found he's buying Sanderson Farms. So just to look at the technicals real quick, it's been doing pretty well. It's got a pullback, but you know, the actual fundamental value, price to book of 2, PE of around 6, current ratio really good return. It doesn't have the debt here, but fundamentally not too bad here. About a 1% dividend, and again keeps rising in price. So what is Sanderson Farms? It is a poultry producer that makes around 13.65 million chickens per week. So again, this is in line with what we've seen. He is now the largest owner of farmland. He's also got this nonprofit called Gates Ag 1, where they're going in to places and making them dependent on GMOs and chemical fertilizers, that type of thing. So to me, it's a bit worrisome. Obviously, we're being told that we're going to be, you know, forced directly or indirectly, however, basically to eat all these fake meat products. So why is he buying up these poultry producers? Are they going to regulate small farmers, or what the hell's going on here? So anyway, not sure what that means. Could it be a decent investment? I don't know. Maybe. This dude is pretty damn smart, and I like to follow what is he doing. And so there you go. That's pretty much it. I will leave you with one quote, and that is by Ludwig von Mises. And again, I encourage read some of his books. They're some of the best books I've ever read. Human Action. It's a very long book, but a very good book. And also his student Friedrich Hayek. Really good books. They really make a lot of sense. So here's a quote from him. There is no means of avoiding the final collapse of a boom brought about by credit expansion. The alternative is only whether the crisis should come sooner as a result of voluntary abandonment of further credit expansion, or later as a final and total catastrophe of the currency system involved. It looks like you can tell which path we are on, and again, that's why, regardless of these day-to-day, week-to-week, or even month-to-month fluctuations, I encourage everyone to prepare for the eventual end that is basically, from von Mises's point, unavoidable. You can't avoid it. It can be delayed, but eventually the more you delay it, the worse it's going to be. But being prepared can give you a huge advantage. You can actually overcome any of these obstacles. So I'm not saying this to make anyone scared. I'm saying it to empower people to take advantage of what could be coming down the road and make sure that they win regardless of the circumstance, and that we can all basically come together and prevent this from destroying us individually. So thank you all for watching. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, if you're here till the end, I appreciate your time. If you don't mind, give me the thumbs up, of course. Like, subscribe, share, do all that. Anyway, thank you all. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.